Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Across the Cloud interview series. I'm Laura Wiesenfeld, Head of Policy and Legal Affairs at Scope Europe, which is the secretariat and monitoring body of the EU Cloud Code of Conduct. I'm very pleased to host this discussion today with IBM and discuss co-regulatory tools such as the EU Cloud COC, as well as their impact on the current cloud regulatory landscape. Since its approval back in 2021, the EU Cloud COC is widely recognized as a leading co-regulatory initiative in the European data protection landscape, which has achieved harmonization across all the cloud industry, covering IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. In this regard, more than 1,250 services from all across service layers have become adherent to the code, thus earning the EU Cloud COC compliance mark. In order to continuously develop and improve the compliance solutions that we bring to the market, such as the EU Cloud COC, we believe it is crucial to foster meaningful dialogue with leading cloud service providers such as IBM, which is also one of the founding members of the EU Cloud COC. In this spirit, we have the pleasure to welcoming today Gerrit Steinfort, Manager of Government and Regulatory Affairs at IBM. Gerrit is an expert in tech policy and is a cloud policy lead in IBM Europe. He's also an active member of the EU Cloud COC, and he contributes on a daily basis his expertise to this ecosystem. Welcome, Gerrit.
Thank you,
and thank you very much for joining us here today. Now let's dive into our discussion. If this is all right with you, I will already jump to the first question.
Absolutely.
Sure. So the EU Cloud Code of Conduct has become a prominent compliance tool in the cloud sector. As I said, it has really effectively harmonized GDPR compliance and transparency across all layers. We have a quite diverse membership when it comes to the different cloud services that are there. And IBM was a founding member of this initiative and has really been a driving force, not only behind the drafting of the code, but also its operationalization, also in the very early stages of this initiative. Could you please share what has been your experience with the EU Cloud COC, specifically when it comes to also adhering your services to the code? A lot of your services have been now verified adherent, and how all these efforts underline your commitment to transparent privacy practices.
Sure, thanks for having IBM. Let me begin by saying that throughout our company's century-long history, we have always been committed to introduce cutting-edge technologies with a strong sense of responsibility and a clear mission. IBM is the hybrid cloud and AI company and is at the forefront of the rapid pace of innovation in these emerging technologies. But with innovation comes responsibility, right? So we work closely together with policymakers, strategic partners such as Scope Europe, clients, and regulators to understand this evolving landscape and to develop technological and policy safeguards. For example, for decades, we've adhered to core principles grounded in our commitment to trust and transparency. These principles really guide how we manage and handle our clients' data and also shape our approach to technology development. This work also extends to our comprehensive set of security and privacy commitments to our clients to ensure a robust and responsible approach to safeguarding data. So it was only natural that IBM, alongside strategic partners like SAP and Salesforce and others, co-founded the EU Cloud Code of Conduct in collaboration with the European Commission and the precursor to the European Data Protection Board. And I'd just like to highlight that this initiative predates even the GDPR. So adhering our cloud offerings to the Cloud Code of Conduct really demonstrates our proactive approach to maintaining the trust our European customers have placed on us for over a century by integrating open, transparent and explainable privacy practices into everything that we do.
Oh, thank you. That makes sense. You spoke about transparent practices, and that indeed makes sense. It's also about providing the transparency you need to provide to the users, the controllers at the end of the day. And that brings me to my next question, which is, with the growing awareness of personal data security issues, companies and users are increasingly opting for cloud service providers that are really known for their strong data protection standards. Could you share your insights on how adherence to a code of conduct could influence users' experiences, and especially sensitive sectors such as the financial sector, which is also a very highly regulated sector, and in that case needs to receive all this transparency from the cloud market?
Absolutely. So we have a unique approach where we collaborate with financial organizations to address regulatory challenges and co-create solutions. Let me provide some context by illustrating our approach to cloud in the financial services sector. So in 2020, we introduced the IBM Cloud for Financial Services program together with our key partner banks. So we deliberately developed a public cloud tailored to the business and compliance needs of the financial services sector. Our aim essentially is to assist financial institutions in managing risk and accelerating their adoption of cloud technologies, even for their most sensitive data. And at the core of this program lies the IBM Cloud Framework for Financial Services, which is a comprehensive cloud controls framework. And this framework is continuously validated with the advice from the IBM Financial Services Cloud Council. We started this council back in 2020 with just 8 members who are global systemically important banks. And it is the only forum of its type in the industry where financial services organizations come together to address industry problems by co-creating solutions with members. And the council, of course, also engages with policymakers and regulators. And the council continues to grow with around 130 participants from nearly 80 financial institutions. And the reception from financial entities, policymakers, and regulators is very positive and really highlights the mutual value in better understanding and addressing the regulatory, compliance, and technological challenges that are very specific to this heavily regulated sector. So it made a lot of sense that we adhered our most widely used cloud services within our financial services cloud with the Cloud Code of Conduct, demonstrating compliance not only with the GDPR, but also with the need of key stakeholders in the financial services sector to protect their clients' data.
Thank you, Gerrit. I think that explains well how the code puts everything together. In a way, it's a tool that allows regulators to sit together, the industry, and come up with appropriate standards that also fit to the users and promote, this trust towards your customers, basically. And that also brings me to my next question. So IBM really holds a significant position in Europe, in the cloud market. You have really closely observed the dynamics of cloud computing and how this has been lately affecting the regulatory environment. And the EU Cloud COC has, as we discussed already, streamlined, compliant, and put together these regulators and the industry to determine these fair data processing practices. And I think what is interesting to discuss now is if you could share your insights on the broader implication of self and co-regulatory tools, and how the EU Cloud COC that exemplified these efforts can interact and also influence other regulatory frameworks within the current EU regulatory landscape, such as we see the up-and-coming Data Act, AI Act, and so forth.
Sure. So the most important thing to remember is that co-regulation through a defined code of conduct that aligns with regulatory requirements, such as the GDPR, is really an efficient way to create legal certainty with providers, users, and regulators. So it was very important to establish privacy specifications in the code based on the GDPR to ensure effectively that cloud providers, users, and regulators have a shared understanding and really can rely on the code. So it offers a substantial advantage to us because it allows us to demonstrate our adherence to the code, assuring our customers of the privacy measures in our cloud offerings. So this transparency is a crucial trust-building element for our customers. So I think it's also worth noting that this code undergoes constant monitoring with Scope Europe, your organization, serving as the officially designated monitoring body under the GDPR for the Cloud Code of Conduct. So regular audits are conducted by Scope to assess compliance. And I believe that it is an additional trust indicator for our customers as it attests to our status as a reliable partner. So really the monitoring aspects and the trust that it builds for the cloud services that are adhered to the code demonstrates the industry's capability for self-regulation. And let me just highlight that with regards to artificial intelligence, we endorse self and core regulatory initiatives for implementing the AI Act. So let me just give you one example. We advocate for providers and users of AI foundation models to establish self-regulatory codes of conduct for sharing documentation and information within the AI value chain. This approach can enhance compliance, especially in high-risk AI use cases. So co-regulation is effective in providing legal peace of mind for providers, users, and regulators. We think it's a reliable approach focused on building trust.
Thank you. No, that makes sense. So you talked about this legal trust that those tools provide. And I believe also this has been also recognized by the latest efforts of the European Commission with the up-and-coming cloud rulebook, which also aims at looking all the standards out there and to list those that are appropriate to help businesses move to the cloud. I mean, we know that as part of the European Union's Digital Decade Vision, one of the key objectives is to have 75% of all the businesses embracing cloud computing. So yeah, I just wanted to make, have your insight to think about how do you think the cloud rulebook will help cloud users and then, also the public sector make informed choices when they need to select their cloud service providers. And if you could let us a bit know more about this initiative that is currently ongoing.
Sure. So I'm confident that the EU Cloud Rulebook can be a valuable tool for both providers and users, and by offering a coherent framework for making informed decisions on procuring the suitable cloud services. We don't know yet exactly how the Cloud Rulebook will look like, but we expect that it will be published by the European Commission by the end of the year. Having said that, I think it's important to note that the Rulebook should not introduce new legislation or mandatory requirements for cloud providers. Rather, its purpose really is to establish a comprehensive EU cloud governance framework, consolidating existing EU rules currently applicable to cloud services. So I definitely think that the rulebook could serve as a valuable resource for private and public organizations and really help them better navigate the EU cloud landscape. Now, in my view, the rulebook should also include sector-agnostic, voluntary, and self-regulatory instruments, such as codes of conduct. We'd love to see that the European Commission integrates the EU Cloud Code of Conduct into the rulebook, as they are, as you said, around 1,250 cloud services currently certified under the code. So I think the code rightfully deserves that recognition. The rulebook could also integrate other voluntary and self-regulatory instruments, such as regulatory opinions, standard contractual clauses, for example, the EU standard contractual clauses that are widely used for data transfers. It's also important to consider that the rulebook should reflect the diversity of the cloud market and allow for differentiation. By that, I mean that it should also include sector-specific rules, like those for financial services, and also emphasize cloud solutions that are tailored to that sector, especially as the EU Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA for short, is becoming applicable soon. So as we look ahead, I believe the rulebook will be a valuable tool for users to help them navigate the cloud landscape. I'm also optimistic that the Cloud Code of Conduct will find its place in there and that there will be room for differentiation for cloud providers.
So you mentioned an interesting point, which are the SCs that should be also in a way being recognized in the EU Cloud Rulebook and tackle in a way that is more harmonized international data transfers. And that brings me to the next question, which is about the importance of international data transfers. And in that respect, we'd like to hear your thoughts on the third country transfers initiative. So currently the EU Cloud CGA is working on Chapter 5 GDPR safeguards, tackling, basically GDPR compliant international data transfers and trying to find a standardized way of thinking of a data transfer mechanism for the cloud sector. Currently, the module is in the making. However, the first public version is published and open for consultation. So you are an active member contributing to this initiative, and we'd like to hear a bit more about what are the benefits for you of this initiative and how do you see, in general, the added value for the cloud market.
Absolutely. Let me begin by saying that it is absolutely crucial that businesses can rely on robust data transfer mechanisms that align with their specific requirements. As we all know, and you said it, international data transfers are a complex issue for both providers and users, and they have the potential to introduce legal uncertainty. The EU-US data privacy framework represents a significant step toward achieving greater legal certainty in transatlantic data transfers. It provides an additional trusted data transfer mechanism for our customers and reinforces the shared values in the transatlantic relationship. Having said that, the GDPR was never intended to allow for only one way to transfer data, right? So I think there's also merit to consider an industry-led co-regulatory approach for international data transfers. So bringing the industry together to enhance legal certainty through the addition of a data transfer module, building on the successful EU Cloud Code of Conduct, it certainly is a compelling idea. The data transfer module that you were working on as Scope Europe, especially when integrating that into the Cloud Code of Conduct, could, for instance, streamline the process of conducting so-called transfer impact assessments, which is a mandatory component of standard contractual clauses. Of course, we'll now have to have discussions with privacy regulators and other relevant stakeholders and integrate their feedback. So we are eager to see the next steps in that process and to contribute further to that process. Let me just end on this note and say that I want to stress how crucial it is to seize the opportunity provided by the EU-US data privacy framework's momentum. We should be careful not to make policy and regulatory choices that might decouple technologies and limit the flow of data. These policy decisions must really be made with careful consideration of their economic and cybersecurity implications. Let me just really stress once again that it's really important that industry is able to rely on robust data transfer mechanisms that provide legal certainty. And I think that's how we will really get more European businesses and governments to transition to the cloud.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You mentioned two interesting elements. First of all, this very strict legal certainty that is a very important point to allow for, GDPR compliant data flows and to enable that we take all these discussions from a very legal standpoint and, we create some more certainty within the market. And the second point is also indeed, the EU privacy framework deals with EU-US transfers, but there's not only the EU-US, there's also the importance of data flows towards other third country transfer jurisdictions. And that is exactly what the third country module is seeking to establish. It's not only about the EU-US, it's about finding a standard of ways for all jurisdictions and also a standardized way of, doing the TIAs and to providing in a transparent manner the information to the customers, which is all it is about at the end of the day, to create this, as we already discussed, this compliance chain within that ecosystem. So, Gerrit, I would really like to thank you for this quite insightful conversation today. And thank you also to IBM for this big contribution to this ecosystem.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.